it is time. It is time for our next speaker. So now we have someone very, very special. Well, everyone here is special, obviously, but someone that I love hearing her speak. I always learn so much. We have got Dana DiTomaso from Kickpoint. So Dana has 20 plus years of experience, starting when she was just 10 years old, clearly, in digital marketing and teaching. And she is an international keynote speaker, and she is a CBC Edmonton technology columnist. And we're going to say hello to Dana now. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Ah, thank you for coming along. It is a pleasure to see you. And your plant behind you as well,
my plant
waving.
Situation, yes.
I like your plant situation is good. I am excited to hear this. I know everyone's excited to hear your talk. You are going to be telling us all about GA4. We're stuck with it now. Boo.
Yeah, we sure are.
There's no going back, sadly. You can't roll back the clock. So remember to ask your questions for Dana in the live chat, and Dana will be taking it from here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, when Jenny at BrightLocal said, "What do you want to name the talk?" I was like, "This is how people feel about GA4, so this is what I'm going to call it." First, though, before I get into the talk, I just want to take a moment and talk about the charity that I'm supporting today, Rainbow Railroad. If you're unfamiliar with them, I mean, myself, I'm fortunate to live in Canada where I can live my life safely and openly, but not everywhere in the world is like that. And Rainbow Railroad helps people around the world who are facing persecution based on their sexual orientation or gender identity. They've helped almost 10,000 LGBTQI people so far. And your donation will go towards helping get people out of dangerous situations or other financial supports. So also, if you live in Canada or the US, you can also sponsor a newcomer individually. You don't have to, you can help them through the process. So I really recommend looking into that if you are in Canada or the United States. All right, now on with the show. So how's everybody doing with GA4? I'm sure you're all very stoked about it as we get into our first months of reporting. I think the thing that bothered me the most about the GA4 transition was how long the UA accounts kept collecting data. I could have enjoyed my long weekend and not worried about the UA sunset date if it was just going to keep collecting data all through August. But seriously, let's check the internet and see how things are going. So this person is having a great time with GA4. Here's one glowing review. I captured this from the GA4 community on Facebook just the other day. It's too good to not include in my talk. I think the biggest thing with GA4 is that it is focused on data collection first, reporting second. And that makes sense for analysts, who is really the primary audience for GA4. But if you're coming at it from UA and you're used to all the features and whatnot that UA had, it's difficult. It's confusing. It's a lot, especially for smaller businesses. And if we're thinking about local SEO, it's a lot of smaller businesses. And that's why people are really getting stuck. And I don't want to come across as a GA4 apologist. GA4 has issues. Absolutely. No question. So in this talk, I'm not going to be like, yay, GA4 is the best. There's critical parts of GA4 that are broken. There's bugs. It takes forever for attribution to sort itself out. All these things are not great at all. But as the title says, we're stuck with it now. So what are we going to do? First thing to keep in mind, and just accept this statement into your heart. UA data and GA4 data is not going to match. If it matches, it's an accident. So just let it go. It's not going to match. They're measuring different things in completely different ways. Just please stop trying to compare the two. You can't. You could look at traffic over time and know there's going to be a bit of a wobble as things move from UA to GA4, but you really cannot try to match the two. Something else I think that's said a lot about GA4, but isn't well connected to what this means for the day-to-day life of a marketer, is how GA4 uses events to track everything. Why is this important? So the thing is with event tracking is that you can there's lots of events baked right into GA4. 90% scroll depth, file downloads, site searches, etc. All stuff you could not get in Universal Analytics unless you put in a whole bunch of work. But on top of that, you can really broaden your perspective on the kind of data that you're capturing. But I mean, this nerd stuff is nice, but what can events actually do for you? So I have a real practical example from a client. One of our clients was suspicious that the traffic they were getting from their paid agency was pretty crap. And we didn't need to do anything special at all to prove that that was true. The traffic was crap. All we did was look at the composition of visitors, all visitors to their website, and compare it to the composition of events just for the visitors coming from this paid channel. So the outside donut is all visitors on their website and their event composition. The inner pie is just the suspicious paid traffic. And there's a pretty obvious issue here. You can see that the paid traffic, there's like 1, maybe 2 scroll events in there for the paid traffic. And of course, what is it, 21% of all visitors actually had a scroll event. And so that to me says that these people are clearly bots and not real human beings at all. I think like one human might have ended up on the paid campaign by accident, but it was just a bot festival. And we didn't do anything special. This is just by looking at event composition. So built in, you already have a lot of information in GA4. And then on top of events themselves, just the existence of events, events can have parameters, which if you recall in Universal Analytics, we had that category action label hierarchy. It could record some stuff, but it really got stuck if you're recording lots of things. So here's another real example from one of our clients. In this case, they have a form on their website, and when the form is submitted, we record a form submit event, as you should, but we also capture what's entered into some of the fields. We have form office for their office location. We have reason for what they select from the reason dropdown. And then we have turnover. For those of you not in the UK, that's the gross profit of a company, or not gross revenue of a company per year. And so all those things we're capturing in the form as well. And then we can create a report. This is in Looker Studio. Later, we can talk about why did they rename Google Data Studio to Looker Studio, worst name ever. Anyway, but this is what the report looks like in Looker Studio. And then you can click on any one of these individual values. For example, I've clicked on 1 million pounds to 3 million pounds, and then I can filter the rest of the data. This kind of thing was not really possible in Universal Analytics. You could do it, but with a lot of work. And if I wanted to capture more than just category action label, more than 3 classes of data, you really could not do it easily. In GA4, you can have up to 50 parameters per event. There's so much more data that you can capture. And you don't have to just make up your own events as well when you're thinking about parameters. You can take existing events, for example, like a page view, and then you can add things onto it. So this is a real nerd slide. And again, like the slides will be available afterwards, but this is the raw data that we capture whenever you visit a resource post on our kpplaybook.com website. The items outlined in black are the things that just get captured with every page view event. That's all the built-in stuff. Everything in red is the extra stuff that we're capturing. So I'm going to walk you through the extra things that we're capturing really quickly. This first section here looks at how the person got to the page. Was it via navigate, which is a link click, reload, which means that they've been hoarding it in their browser? Did they use the back or forward buttons? Were they redirected to get here, which is really useful for SEO audits to know how many redirects it was before someone landed on a page. How many tabs of our website does this person have open? In the screenshot that they have 3. It was me. I had 3 open. And then you can see the tab ID for the current tab, and then the tab type, existing or new. So this really helps you tell, how are people getting to the page? And also, if you see someone who has lots of tabs open, something like a path analysis is going to be really difficult because they could be flipping between different tabs and not clicking on links to get from A to B, for example. So if you want to learn more about how to implement this on your website, here's the post with the link on how to do just that. And I walk you through how to do this. And there's a Google Tag Manager container in there that explains exactly how to set this stuff up. So I recommend checking that out if you want to capture these kinds of things on your own website. The next thing that you can look at as well is this is information about the page itself. The description is the first 100 characters in the meta description because we can only capture 100. So if we're playing around with meta descriptions, we want to see, what was the meta description that resulted in, say, the most conversions or the most traffic from organic or whatever that might be. Then we also have the page purpose. So what is the major functions page is accomplishing for us? This is a field we've added custom into our WordPress websites that will output what the purpose is. So we can choose if it's consumption, navigation, is it a purchase, for example, or a form fill or lead capture of some kind. And that way we can evaluate the page based on what it's supposed to be evaluated against. And then we also capture the publish and modification date. So if you're in there doing some changes from SEO and you want to see if, say, the velocity of organic traffic has changed after an update date, you can go ahead and do that. And then we look at all post group by author as well. And again, for that content consumption thing that I mentioned with regards to the page purpose, if you want to learn how to do that, I don't have time to go through it in this talk, but here is the post on our website that explains exactly how to do that. Now, one thing about event parameters I think a lot of people forget, make sure to register any event parameters in GA4 as custom dimensions or custom metrics, or else you won't see that data show up in GA4. The data is still captured, it just isn't visible to you, which I think is really annoying. Next thing I want to talk about with GA4, bounce rate. Now, bounce rate is horrible. You never should have been using it, but everybody was, so here we are. And I'm sure you reported on bounce rate before, but bounce rate exists in GA4, but is calculated completely differently. It's actually the inverse of engagement rate. Engagement rate is a good metric. Bounce rate is not. So engagement rate measures when sessions become engaged. And a session can become engaged when it's the visitor's first time on the website. The website is the active tab in the browser for at least 10 seconds, a second page is visited, or a conversion is recorded. Those are useful things. Reporting on engagement rate is a useful way to look at your data. So here's an example, again, from a GA4 account. If we take a look at the engagement rate, say for that unassigned channel or for the display channel, you can see that the engagement rate is significantly less for those two channels. We can take a look at that and say, what's wrong with this traffic? What can we do to improve this? Or we can also look at it by landing page, and we can say, for this particular landing page, the engagement rate is lower than on other landing pages. What are we doing here? And taking a look at, our on-site on-page events and seeing, are they not getting very far down the page? Is there a bug maybe on the page? Is there something else going on that's lowering that engagement rate? And that really helps you figure out what pages to start with when you're thinking about, fixing things up and improving stuff. Also, when you're looking at reports as well in GA4, and I'm just have this in here as like a FYI, you might be seeing this thresholding applied. It shows up as this little caution symbol, and you click on it, it says thresholding. Why is that happening? Well, Google has this like privacy, blah, 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 blah concern about it. And they want to make sure that like, if you don't have a lot of users, then it's going to show up. But the problem is that small businesses don't have a lot of users. So thresholding is a real problem for smaller, low volume websites. So here's how to fix this mostly. You go into admin and reporting identity. And then you're going to click on show all, and show all shows you one more thing. Why show all? It's just one thing. Why not just show it? I think Google doesn't want you to use this. I don't know. So then you click on device-based. Now, if you have on-site logins, like BrightLocal, for example, don't do this. But most small business websites do not have on-site logins. If you don't have on-site logins and you have thresholding issues, click show all, and then you will see less thresholding showing up. All right, now, what else is useful in GA4? I really like audiences in GA4, and they are useful beyond just Google Ads as well, because I think people really associate audiences with things like Google Ads, and that was all you could really do with it in Universal Analytics, was just look at it for audiences. But you can use them for a heck of a lot more than just Google Ads. Audiences can help you answer questions. So, for example, in this case, we can use audiences and comparisons in GA4. And if you're unfamiliar with adding a comparison, on the screenshot here, if you look up towards the top left of the image, I can't exactly point with my mouse, but where it says all users and then recipe viewers, you can see you click add comparison. That opens up that comparison panel on the right-hand side. And then I can say, just show an audience of recipe viewers. And so for this client, they want to know if their recipe types of blog posts are helping convert users or not. And then below this, I didn't want to show it because there's actual client data, but below this, that we can see the engagement are the conversion rates and engagement rates for people who view any post on the site versus the people who are just showing up in that recipe viewers audience. And that is built on people viewing a page. Really simple audience to create. Audiences also help you filter out visitors who aren't going to help you meet your goals. So, for example, if you have a careers section on your website, those people probably aren't going to become customers. But yet, in most cases, they end up, showing up in analytics, and you count them. And when you're counting your calculations for your conversion rates, when the reality is that these people are going to convert, they want a job. They don't want to give you money. They would like to get money from you. So you can create an audience that's everybody except for people who viewed one of your careers pages. And then when you're looking at things like conversion rates and whatnot, you can just use this audience of people who are not job seekers. For this particular client, I think it's only about 5% of their users, but they have annual job fairs, and it gets much higher around that point. So it's a really useful audience for us to have set up for them year round. We can also use this in cases where you might have sites that have, two functions. For example, for this client, they're a convention center. People will visit them to see, what events are happening, and people will go to them to say, I want to book an event. So when we're looking at conversion rates for things like people wanting to book an event, why would we include everybody when really only this part of their audience, I think it's 64% of their audience, is actually interested in booking an event with them? Instead, we'll create an audience of people who've expressed some interest in booking an event by going to any of their planning event pages, and then we'll look at conversion rates specifically for that and nothing else. Another section of GA4 that is really useful is explorations. I think that explorations is really going to be something that is improved a lot in the future. I think it's something that is kind of useful now, but there's lots of features going into it. And now that the sunset date's out of the way, I think we're going to see a lot more improvements to explorations. So for example, one of the nice things you can do in explorations is look at page paths. And so for example, this is in path analysis, we're starting with session starts where they started on the site. And then I'm looking at their page path and clicking on individual pages to see their flow through the site, keeping in mind that this person could have multiple tabs open as well. So keep that in mind. If you see a weird path, that's why. You can also view a reverse page path, which again is really hidden. So a lot of GA4 is just like clicking on stuff and seeing what happens. So if you click start over at the top here, then you can actually pick your ending point for your path. And then you could make your ending point, say, your checkout page. And then you could go through this path again and say, you know, okay, if people ended up on the checkout page, where did they go up until this point? Or viewing a cart page or viewing a thank you page if you have that for a specific lead form. How did they get there? You can also create funnels. These are the two most, I think, useful explorations are the path analysis and funnel analysis. This is a pretty typical funnel for something like a shopping cart where the steps are, you know, people looking at an item, adding it to the cart, beginning the checkout, finishing the checkout. And there's even an option here. I didn't have it turned on for this particular screenshot, but you can see a slider towards the bottom left of the screen that says show elapsed time. And it will show you how long it took in between each individual step as well, which is also really interesting. So again, I really like funnels. And another great thing about funnels is that if you click this little folder icon up here at the top right, then you can see, you can actually add it to your standard reports in the reports interface in GA4, which, by the way, did you know you can customize your reports menu? It's something, again, that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. And that means that you can make different reports for yourself, for your leadership, for your clients. Like I have one report that says, Cheryl, use this. It's just, you can call it whatever you want. And you can customize those reports specifically for that person. So this is an example of what our GA4 interface looks like for our kpplaybook.com website. And you can see we've got for content, conversions, and I made a thing for Cyrus of Zippy. So it was, so I added that in there as well. But you can customize this as much as you want, and you can add in funnels as well. You can't add in any other explorations at this point, just funnels. But again, a funnel is so useful, especially for clients. If you have an e-commerce client, like just put that on their sidebar and then they can just get to it and take a look at their funnel stuff themselves. I really like it in terms of cutting back what you don't need and then adding on the stuff that you do. Again, part of our philosophy of reporting is like, keep it as simple as possible so that people don't feel like they're getting overwhelmed, because GA4 is frankly overwhelming. So if you want to learn the whole process on how exactly to modify this sidebar, I recommend going to the KP Playbook YouTube channel. There's a video I just published on how to create a report with and so that one was published, I think, on Thursday. Check that video out. It walks you through start to finish exactly how to modify your sidebar and how to create a report that you would then add to your sidebar as well. So follow that step by step. And it's only 4 minutes long, so it does not take very long at all. So last but not least, my shameless self-promotion, we have just released a course called Analytics for Agencies. So if you're an agency person, and we have some in-house people in the course too, we have taken everything that myself and our agency knows about selling, delivering, implementing, and reporting on analytics for our clients, and is all here for you. Nothing is held back. These are our GTM templates. These are our reporting templates, everything. So today's a thank you for BrightLocal for having me. Anyone who's here today, please use the code BrightLocal for 20% off buying the course. And it has a community as well, and bi-weekly office hours where you get one-on-one time with me to go through any really specific weird problems that you might have. And again, don't forget about my charity, Rainbow Railroad, really fantastic charity helping people around the world. And now let's get into some questions.
Hooray! Hello. That was brilliant. Thank you. Disclaimer, yes, the course is very good. I am learning many things. Thank you very much. Let's go to questions.
You can't. Okay, so I am working on something. I have some ideas on what to do, on what you could do for annotations. And I'm working on a video as well that I'm going to be publishing next week on how to export annotations to Universal Analytics. So look for that. But for adding it in, there is no way to do it. So what we're doing right now, but I'm going to see if there's a better way to do it, is we have a Google Sheet that we then use in a blend and Looker Studio to combine with the data. Not ideal by any means, but I don't think annotations are coming. Annotations never had an API in Universal Analytics. And I just don't think they're going to bother with it. I think it's probably like one of those features that are like, no one's using this. And meanwhile, these agency people are like, but I was using it, bring it back for me. So yeah, I think you're gonna have to make a sheet. But again, as I said, I am working on some methods. I'm probably gonna be posting a post next week about annotations and what you can do for it in GA4, because the answer is you're gonna have to do something else.
Okay, that is very sad times, isn't
I
it?
know.
Okay. Any tips on organic conversion tracking in GA4?
I think the biggest thing is make sure you have the right conversion set up. It is really far too easy to create a conversion in GA4. You just go into events and you click the slider and it's a conversion. Ta-da! I've had clients in the past month turn on CTA button clicks as a conversion. That didn't make them money. Don't turn that on. Someone turned on page view as a conversion. Also did not make you money unless you're BuzzFeed. Don't turn that on, right? So it's way too dangerous to turn on conversions. So make sure you've got the right kinds of conversions. What are the things that are actually going to make the client money? We're really picky about that. And then with regards to organic in particular, you're really going to want to focus on landing pages and seeing what landing pages are coming in from organic. And again, local SEO focused, make sure to use UTM tagging. I know Claire has a guide. I believe, is it on BrightLocal, the guide on UTM tagging?
We've got one on my site, and then I've done a little multi-location number which lives on the BrightLocal website. They're both very valuable, Dana.
Yeah, and so I like Claire's guides. I mean, for me personally, we tag our UTMs a little bit differently. Claire and I have talked about our philosophical differences in UTM tagging, but the point is you got to UTM tag stuff. UTM tag your website links, your appointment links, your post links, your product links, all of it. And that is the only way you're really going to be able to know what is driving traffic and conversions to your website.
Fantastic. For sure. So we have a question from Joey. What reports from the stock GA4 reports dashboard are your most used, and which metrics do you look for mostly?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at my sidebar here. So I mean, the ones that I've made in the sidebar, which you would have seen that screenshot of where did visitors start, under that is organic search and organic social. And so what I did is I took the acquisition, let's see, I took the engagement landing pages report and I customized that to only show people coming in via organic search and coming in via organic social, and added those filters and saved those reports. Again, watch the video, it talks through how to do that. But I would say the landing pages report is one I get into a lot. And one thing that, and there might be a question coming up about this, so you might see when you're looking at the landing pages report, you'll see landing pages is not set. And people are like, what does this mean? Landing page not set happens when a new session is started without a page view event. So I am on, let's say I'm on the BrightLocal website. I'm reading a really fantastic blog post. I go and have lunch. The session timeout for the website is set to half an hour. I come back after an hour and I continue reading the post, but I don't reload the page. It's been open on my browser this whole time. And I start scrolling down, and let's say they capture a scroll event at 50%. Now there's an event that exists in GA4 without a page view or session start event, because technically it was just like my session kind of paused. It didn't like end or restart again. And so that's when you're going to have a landing page of not set. In those cases, what I say is just put in a filter. Don't worry about those not set pages. Those are people resuming their sessions. If you have a lot of them, it just means that people are leaving your tabs open for a long time, which may or may not be a bad thing. And that link I posted on measuring content success will show you how exactly in GA4 you can figure out how many of your users are hoarding tabs forever and just reloading the tab again and again, which could be a lot.
Those naughty tab hoarders. Right, what have we got next? Do you have any recommendations for alternatives for GA4? And do you actually, this is a great question. Do you think the change from UA to GA4 has impacted Google's market share at all?
So here's the thing. You have to use GA4 for Google Ads. Like, you have to. So you can use whatever else you want, but if you're going to do anything with Google Ads, you have to use GA4. So you can use Matomo. You know, a lot of people are switching to Matomo. I have a few clients who are trying them out. There's another one called Fathom, which is based in Canada. Those are the two that I think I've heard about the most. Some people are going to more roll your own type solutions like Amplitude or Snowplow. And that's like, if you have the time to set that up, then great, but that is not an out-of-box solution like GA4 or Matomo. I think that that's the biggest thing, is just really thinking about like, what do we want to get? Because if you run a lot of Google ads, you know, going to another alternate solution is only going to help you with the stuff that isn't Google ads, because that GCL ID that comes along when people click on an ad is really key to how GA4 links up with your Google Ads account to report on things like attribution and conversions. So I think that's really something to keep in mind is, you know, yeah, you can go to a solution. If you don't do any ads at all, you're like, screw Google, I'm not going to bother doing ads, then great. I would say Matomo is probably the best known and well supported option right now. But again, just evaluate them and pick which one is going to be best for your needs, and just keep in mind that, you know, there are these limitations to it. As for Google's market share, again, because it is so tightly impacted with ads, I don't know how much Google cares. I mean, I don't think Google really cares too much about the small business market, right? Like it's not the thing that they make the most money off of. They make money off of huge corporations spending millions and millions of dollars in ads. So from their perspective, they're just like, yeah, those people were a waste of money anyway. So I don't think they care, and I don't know how much it has. But I think that GA4 is just honestly a better reflection as well of what we can and can't track in today's privacy-focused analytics climate. So if you feel like you're losing data, yeah, you've been losing data for years. It's just GA4 is more honest about it. So also keep that in mind when you're evaluating solutions too.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's such a, let's just have a fresh start. Let's have a new way of looking at it. This is what we've got. It serves its purpose for Google. So we have what we have. So that's where we are. Okay. I think we've got a couple more. Let's have a little look.
Oh, this one was already asked.
I think, well, Joey, such a good question. We asked it twice. Have we,
How do you feel?
How do you feel about it?
Well, it's real slow. I find that it really crushes site speed. I mean, for me, like I'm more focused on core web vitals metrics. You know, I don't care about the total load time of a page. I care about time to first byte and LCP and all those other stuff that's important for core web vitals. But clarity is real slow. If we are running it and we do it in Tag Manager, we really try to push it, you know, further down in terms of how it loads, because it is quite chonky rather, for lack of a better word. I mean, I think it's probably going to be useful. It's just real slow right now. And so I think that that's one of the biggest hangups of it, is that it has potential, but with that amount of data and how slow it is in responding, I don't feel great about it on a lot of client websites. We've tried it for ourselves as well, and you know, it's fine.
Okay. Right. Let's see. We've got another one. Now the question on many people's lips. So the course for agencies, is it going to be good for you if you are in-house or you're like a solo marketer and you just feel a bit like, oh, this isn't for me, because it's all going to be about how agencies need to manage things?
Yeah, there's definitely some sections about dealing with clients. And obviously I refer to clients. If you're in-house, just substitute in your mind clients with leadership, because in a lot of times this is what you're doing. I would say the biggest benefit of the course for in-house teams is the fact that there's a full GA4 event reference. And I'm working on a full GA4 settings reference is going to be published in September, and a Google Tag Manager reference also to be published in September, plus the default Google Tag Manager containers. And I think there's something like 15 or 16 videos on how to use Looker Studio from start to finish. That kind of stuff is going to be really valuable for in-house individuals too. And because of the request, we are in the early stages of planning an analytics for in-house teams variant, essentially. But for right now, absolutely, analytics for agencies would be the way to go. And I think the biggest thing, honestly, is people are getting a lot of value out of the office hours, like to be able to sit down and I show you exactly how to do something like that's, hey, it's fun for me. I love answering those kinds of really specific questions. And then you get access to, you know, an expert to help you with this one weird thing that you have going on.
Yeah, for sure. And when do you normally get that? The answer is never. Apart from obviously on all the webinars and things like that. But yeah.
Yeah, but the webinars are like, people are like, but I have a really specific question, but I don't want to ask it because then you have to talk about your client's website and you don't want to, you know, so that's where the office is really good.
Totally. Yeah. So, you know, how many plugs am I supposed to be doing for this course? But it is awesome and it's brilliant, and you know, I love it. So thank you very much for producing it. I think we got one last question.
Yeah, I think I see one here.
Oh, do you think that Google expected everyone to throw their toys out of their pram?
Yeah. I think things got increasingly more desperate at Google HQ as the warnings got redder and redder as we got closer to the date. And then how they emailed everybody and they're like, we're just going to make a GA4 for you because you can't be trusted and you can't be responsible for it. I think that's the biggest thing, is like, what were they expecting was going to happen? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like someone's bonus was writing on GA4 adoption. That's why they just auto created properties for everybody. I am really curious to see a year from now how much people are using GA4 on a day-to-day basis, because I also think that there's been a lot of attention on analytics right now. But again, on an actual real day-to-day basis, if things are going well for a business, how much are people truly using analytics on a regular basis, right? A lot of it is you only look at it when you have a problem or you're thinking, okay, what am I going to do about this, right? And it doesn't necessarily things are going great. So as we potentially head into, the big R recession for, the world, or at least North America, thinking about, well, is that going to change where people are going to be going in there and panicking about stuff? Or if things are good, like we only say, sometimes we hear from our clients, we don't hear from our clients because they're just too busy doing stuff because, we've delivered a lot of leads for them, right? Like nobody ever comes to us because things are great. And so really think about it that way is, if you're not in your analytics all the time, what do you truly need to look at? And I think that's something where with GA4s, they're thinking, what is the stuff that people actually looked at? And I think generally too, obviously Google has an insight onto how people used universal analytics that we didn't have access to. So I would assume that they know a couple things, but GA4 does feel an awful lot like a group project where out of 4 people, 3 of them showed up the night before and pulled an all-nighter. I think a lot of documentation is happening now. I think a lot of bug fixing is happening now. And I think the GA4 that we have right now is not going to be the GA4 we have a year from now or 5 years from now. Universal Analytics came out Classic came out in like 2004. It was around a long time. It had a lot of stuff happen to it. I started using it in 2005. And it's seen some changes over the years. And the same thing is going to happen with GA4 as well. So think of it as a new foundation.
Okay. We're just going to get with it, learn the things, and just do the best that we can with it. Yep. Okay. Thank you very, very much. Dana is just so good, said Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Yay. Thanks, Andy. That was brilliant. Thank you very, very much for coming along tonight, and for sharing all of that information.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for putting on this fantastic event and spotlighting on a lot of these different charities. It's great.
So nice to see you.
You too. Bye-bye.